James Maslow. From the road, now back at home, over 100 dates in a year. He has over 200 in my tour of a variance, unlike James, who has real talent. Mr. Maslow, welcome back home.
You are too self-deprecating and too kind at times, but good to see you, man. And man, is it nice to talk to you from my own home. That's nice.
Well, let's talk about that, because a lot of people don't want to be on the road, but they would love to have the outcomes that are contributed and aligned and built from being on the road. And, how and what have you learned about being on the road to create a harmony that other people don't understand?
Well, look, I think we all want things, but as you and I both know, and a lot of people know, we're hard workers. There's a big difference between, saying you want something and then doing the things that it takes to receive that item or that job or that position, whatever it might be. And touring is a good example of that. I do my best not to complain about the thing I signed up to do and that I'm so grateful and so lucky to do. Having said that, objectively, living on a tour bus, trying to sleep while it's driving, flying nonstop. Anybody who travels understands that. It's definitely a little bit harder. And this summer has been just a combination of some days are tough when you don't sleep. To do any job is difficult, but I do my best to focus on just how amazing it is to do that job. And I get energy from the fans, and I get energy from that humility and that reality that I am so lucky to do it. And so, like everything in life, it's a choice. And my perspective, I choose to look at it and go, man, this is great. Let me focus on all the good. Having said all that, I am ecstatic to be sleeping in my own bed for the last couple of nights.
Yeah, I'm sure with some company as well, with your fiance at home with you, it makes all the difference, amplified as well. There's a saying that I've been annoying about, which is you have to learn to love what you don't like or love about what you love. And when I think of James Maslow, I think of someone at a very young age that has figured this out, but it also extends out into the people that we surround ourselves with. And a lot of the times what makes it more difficult is the people that are relative to us or associated with us. One, they don't acknowledge or appreciate the stuff that we don't like or love about what we love, or their values aren't aligned with where we want to be. And so now they don't appreciate or acknowledge what we're doing, and we don't see a future with them in alignment with that. And I have so many clients today that the majority of a lot of the coaching and mentoring I do is in these relationships or acknowledgement of either values or what we're doing. For you, as I know, you experience this all the time, personally and professionally. How and when do you handle these other people of influence and impact in our lives that are not aligned either with our values or with the acknowledgement of what we're doing?
I mean, that's a great question. And by the way, the only reason I was looking down is I was looking specifically for a quote relative to what we were just talking about from Mike Tyson that I wrote down a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it's he says, discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. And I think about that a lot. But when it comes to doing something, either professionally or personally, with people who you're not aligned with, on the one hand, I will say that sometimes you simply have to work with people that you don't like and that you aren't aligned with, and that's life. So figure out a way to do that. Figure out a way to be at peace with that and agree to disagree. And provided that they can do, you're working with people who are respectful in that manner and can agree to disagree, I think that's wonderful. You don't have to be best friends with the people you work with. In fact, sometimes it's better to have fewer friends and focus on those friendships. And then you have people that you work with. It's, rare when someone like you and I, we've built a friendship first and then decided to build business with it. And that's a beautiful thing, because you'd rather be friends with people that you're working with. You spend a lot of time working, which brings me to my other point. You also shouldn't be afraid to not work with people when you truly aren't aligned in things, because life is short. And while once in a while, the first part of this conversation is true. You're going to work with people that you're not aligned with, figure out a way to do it and just be respectful, and provided that's reciprocated, then that's life and move on. If there are things that truly aren't aligned with what you believe in, your moral compass, who you are, where you want to go in life, it's a hard thing to do, but sometimes you have to be willing to say, I'm just not going to take that opportunity, or I'm not going to work with this person. And that's, again, not always possible, but I have certainly pissed off a lot of people indirectly and unintentionally by simply standing up for Judaism. And the last 2 years, my every time I create content, my goal, my heart is to create something that brings people together. And most people who listen to the whole message or see the whole video would go, "Oh, that's cool," and they'd agree with that. But you know what? A lot of people choose to simply look at the headline or see the Jewish star and immediately, even before I've opened my mouth, come to the conclusion that I'm wrong and I'm bad. And that offended me and bothered me for quite a while until I realized I'm not aligned with where they're at in life. And they're welcome to have a conversation, they're welcome to the party, but if they don't wanna be a part of where I'm going, then it's better off, quite frankly. It's better off for me to attract people who are aligned, professionally, personally, with what I believe in. I have done that. My life has grown, my soul has grown, my connection with God has grown exponentially. And it's scary at the beginning, maybe messy in the middle, but beautiful at the end. That's a Robin Sharma quote.
Yeah, that's a beautiful quote. And speaking of beautiful quotes, Shay Cotton is in the green room. And I was with Aloe Black yesterday, and we were having a similar conversation with his new album, Stand United,
Awesome.
and his feelings. But we have our dear friend Shay Cotton in the house. Thanks for joining us, Shay.
Thanks for having me, David.
Shay, how you doing, man? Nice to meet you.
Good, likewise.
Well, we were just talking about I'm mirroring the pre-launch of my book, by the way, James, the lead in to Don't Do Business with Dicks.
I like the title already. I like the premise.
It's kind of a pre-launch of pre-orders, but we started with the first game of the season, pre-launch in the pre-order, and we'll launch the book at Super Bowl. So we got a long journey of elevating awareness to the right people and the right ideas. And our friend is the Academy of Ideas. Shay, my first question for you is, I talk about surrounding ourselves with the right people and the right ideas. A lot of people don't even think about what they're thinking about, and it creates a huge energy gap. What is the premise and the purpose of the Academy of Ideas?
The Academy of Ideas is a nonprofit. Its inception is about ultimately saving lives, no child left behind, and we feel everyone deserves the VIP experience. So I was raised to treat the janitor like the president, and we're doing the same today with the kids all across the country, not just in California.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. And are you giving them motivation, resources? Can you elaborate a little bit on what you do with the nonprofit?
The concentration is mental health and physical fitness. What that encompasses, we offer a financial literacy through F&M Bank, which has been around 107 years, very conservative, do a great job. So they come in and administer the program to the kids in person, in the classroom during school hours. And we do field trips as well. So the goal with that is to get kids out of the inner city that haven't been exposed to very much, and kind of been a product of their environment, get them to see better opportunities and just expand the horizon. We feel like when you take the kid out of the community that's impoverished to something better, when he goes back to the community, he's a changed person. And throughout.
Yeah, as the Xanders said, and Dr. Wayne Dyer reiterated, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And we can't just keep doing the same things and expect for new ideas. And it's great to have these places and people and ideas to help to change us, to create these shifts that allow us to stand united. What and where the size, scope, and scale of the Academy today? You mentioned not just in California, but now nationwide. How have you grown, and what do you foresee in the expansion?
We're currently vendors at LA Unified School District. They've got well over 500 to 700 schools, and we're vendors for Long Beach Unified as well, and looking for some other regions. I'm in talks with New York, New Jersey, different areas with possibilities to come into some of the school systems there and do some of the work we're doing here. So, the reason why it started here is this is where I made my name, and this is where I dealt with all my adversity. And we take a humanitarian approach with a lot of humility, dealing with the kids, meeting them where they are and expressing parts of my story peeling back some of those layers, the scars that a lot of people don't like to talk about. And we found that helps the kids open up to us, and we're having a lot of great results.
That's awesome. I noticed that you said both mental health and physical health. I know in my life, I see a direct correlation. You know, every day that I wake up that I don't want to go to the gym, or I don't want to go and put in some physical work, but I do, I feel better because of it. I function better because of it. I think more clearly. Heck, when I look better, I feel better. There's so many aspects that I believe are directly correlated. What's your experience there? I see you smiling. I see you nodding, agreeing. Can you talk about that a little bit? Maybe in the perspective you would speak to a young adult about it, encouraging them?
100%. I tend to start my day with something powerful like self-empowerment, self-improvement stuff. I'm a fond listener of Jim Rohn, rest in peace, and Zig Ziglar, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, several others. I like to get my frequencies operating on the right level before I start my day. I don't start it with television and social media. I say some prayers as soon as my feet hit the floor. It's a discipline, just being thankful for life and all my faculties. And I do stuff for myself to be able to pour into others. We have to fill our own cup first, right? So I do sauna for about 30 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week, work out for about an hour and a half. And I find that, as you said, when you feel better, it affects everything. I think you have better relationships, you communicate better. In the mental health is something that we don't talk about enough because it doesn't have a face, right? Nobody knows what you're going through until you express and share.
And Shay, you mentioned your story and your journey, and Bob Proctor, sitting on the Transformational Leadership Council. Bob Proctor, also the biggest donor, including Proctor Gallagher, to the Unstoppable Foundation, which I'm blessed to be the chairman of. Bob Proctor probably has had more impact of any mentor that I've had in my life. He's given me the credibility to be the chairman of the Napoleon Hill Institute. He had, at the time when I lost everything in my journey, given me the guidance to quickly have the mindset, the heart set, and the hand set to get me back to where I wanted to be, to take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become. Can you share your journey, and maybe specifically with Bob Proctor? We share a lot of the same mentors, but Bob especially, how he helped you get to where you wanted to be or better.
Great question, David. So I became one of the number one players in the country in 95, 96 area with Kobe Bryant, the likes of other guys from humble beginnings, grew up in the Los Angeles Harbor area, played baseball when I first started. I was good, but got bored with it, wasn't getting enough action. I was a right fielder, so I translated into basketball early, about 11, 12 years old. Picked it up, the sport, had a natural feel and a love and a desire to get better, and it just propelled me. I mean, I catapulted to the top of the food chain. By the time I was 13, 14 years old, I was already nationally known. ESPN had did a couple stories on me. Sunkissed Kids, Scholastic Sports America was the biggest publications at the time. As far as media, we had no social media. So, I had arrived at a national level before I even touched high school. And then by the time I was 15, 16 years old, Sports Illustrated did a cover story. Viva Brazil, I believe it was a 4-page layout. Brazil had won the World Cup that year. And life got crazy after that. I wasn't born to be a superstar in my adolescent years. I wasn't aware of all the other intangibles, but my parents were hardworking. They taught me and my brother, the right way, and we earn our keep. And nobody gives you anything for free. So, that's how we were taught, the old school way, and the blue collar mentality. And you come early, you stay late. You give an honest day's work and live with the result. And that's how I live my life today. I think I've been fortunate enough to play at a high level. I was probably one of the only players in California state history to become the state CIF Player of the Year, John Wood Player of the Year, as a sophomore in high school. It's never been done since. And be able to play at a high level in college, to start at Long Beach State, to go to UCLA where my brother went hardship to the NBA, and then to transfer to University of Alabama, become all SEC player, and play 10 years professionally. Even though I didn't play in the NBA where I thought I would land, I had a lot of world experience from roles. That's what's more important. All the stuff that you face as we get closer, the more resistance we face. And a lot of times it's the people closest to us, and it hurts, but you're getting closer when things are falling apart.
Great quote.
Well, you also mentioned that your organization teaches financial literacy. And I have been lucky enough to be able to speak in front of high school students and college students, and I'm doing it more and more frequently. And one of the topics that I'm asked to talk about oftentimes when it's a school is financial literacy. And let me tell you, it's the one that is the least exciting for them, because at least in my experience, the majority of them don't feel like it applies to them yet. So have you found, like, is there a tangible piece of information or a book or a resource you found is helpful to get kids, young adults, excited about learning about financial literacy? Because we all on this call could talk about how important it is, but how do we convince a young adult why and how it's important for them?
I think you meet them on their level. We have candid conversations. You're just talking to them about their goals in life. What do you want in life to start? Everybody starts in a different place. Some kids are worse off than others, but the goal is to look at the end result and to chart a path on how to get to it, and to streamline. Put yourself around the right people. So I talk to them about supporting Cass. Who's your five close friends? I said, you want to look at your future, look at your circle. And if you don't like your future, your circle. You don't have a circle, you have a cage. You got to change it. So it's simple as, if you want a car at some point, save some money. If you put $100 away every month, you work a side job, before you know it, in 4 years you graduate, you'll have some money probably to put down on a car. So simple things like that, understanding how to balance a checkbook, what profit and loss really means, and understanding it's not about how much money you make, it's what you spend. You have to put yourself on a budget. And just keeping it simple for them, and then building from that. F&M does a great job because they do bank tours as well. So they show the whole bank out, is everything but the vault. And it gives the kids a chance to touch and feel the stuff that they've been in pursuing, even if they're not familiar with it through their parents. Whatever your upbringing is, at least it's on their radar and they're aware, right? That's the beginning of it. And then we obviously become more serious with our programming.
And understanding the simplicity that's necessary to plant seeds. Talk about probably another one of your previous mentors, a guy named Dennis Waitley, who's surrounded with Zig Ziglar at the same time. Dennis Waitley, good friend of Bob Proctor's and Blaine Bartlett. But Dennis Waitley, when I was a young sales rep, told me is I was resisting financial literacy and also his sales techniques and advice because I thought I knew more than Dennis Waitley, Zig Ziglar, and Bob Proctor combined. Knowing now why my favorite quote is you're either humble or you're about to be. But Dennis Waitley told me, I'm just planting seeds under a tree that I may never sit under. And before Dennis Waitley passed, it was such a blessing for him to tell me how proud that I finally had grown into the tree that he knew I could be. And I see the work that you're doing is very similar to Bob Proctor, Wayne Dyer, Zig Ziglar, Dennis Waitley, Mike Bosworth, so many other of the greats out there, and to have a great athlete as well to communicate the message. When I ran Lee Steinberg, one of the things, James, that Lee and I knew, we represented Evander Holyfield, for example, and we knew when Evander Holyfield did a PSA, a public service announcement, when Evander Holyfield said real men don't hit women, it meant something. People would listen to Evander Holyfield compared to some actor. And so when Shea Cotton is in these high schools in California telling his story about being the number one prospect in basketball, all of basketball, and how important it is to have a variance in your knowledge base beyond the sport that you're playing, and to understand the team you play on and the position you play will make a difference according not only to the sport you play, but the subject matter, topic, and expertise that you'd like to have, because it is knowing your who you can help and who can help you, that will get you to where you want to be or better. Shea Cotton, thank you for all the great work you're doing with Farmers Merchants Bank, founder of the Academy of Ideas, expanding through the country. If you want to support him, where can people reach you, Shea?
You can reach me on social media on Instagram _Academy of Ideas for our nonprofit. You can reach me personally at Shay Cotton on Instagram as well. Our website is academyofideas.org. And lastly, I'd like to encourage anybody that's looking to watch our Mad Child documentary. We're doing a private screening September 21st, which is a Sunday, 4 to 6:30 p.m. at Bill's Texas Barbecue in downtown Santa Ana on Main Street.
And you get some great barbecue at Phil's as well. So I will be there, man. It's some of my favorite people's birthdays, September 21st. It's also the day that I got to play Augusta with the great Lee Elder. And
nice.
I will say hi to Les Brown and all of our favorite crew, man. Let's get together. Congratulations on all your success.
Sounds good. Thank you, David. You guys have a good day.
Take care,
Shay. Pleasure to meet you, man. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you.
You too.
Awesome. Shay was there yesterday at SoFi Stadium. We did a mastermind, which you've attended as well and been a great part of. Real quickly, we have so many great friends of the show. And as we have developed the show and practiced the show, I think we're ready to go, baby. We're going to take this to the next level. So we got some great news coming out. I got a new studio being built for the show. You, as well as we're on the road, we'll build this up. But I always like to finish with the takeaway. What's your takeaway of the day, James Maslow?
Well, twofold. One, he was talking about meeting people where they are. I think that's so important. That was really helpful information for me as well. You know, when somebody's not listening to what's a 1031 exchange or what's cost segment depreciation or things that take a long time to learn and they're seemingly boring and complicated. They're very complicated. To say, you know, what are your goals and work backwards? I think that's really a great piece of advice. And also just it's an old adage, and our parents told us this, and it's for good reason. You become the 5 people you associate with most, you surround yourself with. And for him to make that visual difference between it's not a circle, it's a cage when they're not good people. Wow, that's a great visual, and it's a great takeaway and great reminder to look at the 5 people you're closest to.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I have a team philosophy about that. You know, we can have multiple teams we play for, so you better be intentional about the team you play on and by subject matter topic or expertise. And it's okay to be the water boy on one team and be the team captain or the owner of the team on another, but you better have a definiteness of purpose for what teams you play on. I love that. That was my takeaway. You know, your circle can become a cage, and to understand, you know, when even in the relationship of money, you know, one of my favorite stories about Mike Tyson, you brought up the Mike Tyson quote, is, you know, we were on stage and Andrew Cordell asked him about freedom, and people were giving their ideas about, you know, the definition of money. And a lot of people were like, money is freedom. And Mike Tyson went crazy. He like got out of the chair, laughing his ass off. He's like, what are these people saying? Right? Because that circle of money became a cage.
Yeah.
And it happens to a lot of people. And I think a lot of people that don't have money, like we started the show, you think it's going to be one way.
Sure.
But if you're not capable of learning to love what you don't like or love about what you love, it will become a cage. And we want to keep it that open hole. And if you're going to have a God-sized circle, don't try to fill it with money, with items, material items, with, you know, fame. If you have a God-sized hole, then you fill it with God. And that's why you and I get along. And I support you and what you support. And, you know, my goal is to bring everybody together. So I speak in terms of non-dogmatic principles. I talk in dogmatic people. And, you know, I would say anyone out there that sees James in a Jewish star or a Jewish flag or some sort of title to his belief system, I would say, listen, appreciate the difference, because I've watched your videos and religiously I don't have a great affiliation, even though my brother's a famous rabbi. My mom ran the San Diego Jewish Academy. My belief in you and what you are saying is an appreciation of differences, and that appreciation, you know, Israel's not all Jewish.
Right.
Right. So when you say you support Israel, you support the Palestinian people in Israel, the Muslim people in Israel, the Christian people in Israel, and the Jewish people in Israel.
Yeah. And the
Right.
Jews and many others. Yeah.
And many others. Exactly. So I unfortunately we both have challenges. You'll like this. Someone, you get famous enough, they do videos about your video.
Yeah.
Right. So there's certain things like you're like when you get sued for the first time, my dad's like, you made it. I'm like, I made what? He goes, you actually are successful enough that someone wants to take something you have. You actually have enough.
Isn't that wild? That's an accomplishment.
Yeah. So I felt the same way, when someone did a video, and of course they didn't give, they took it out of context and they
As
made
they do. It's so easy to do.
and they made fun of me. And I reached out to the person. And I said, I just have to tell you, I felt that your video was hilarious. And I love what you did with it. And I'd love to have a conversation with you to go beyond the humor and talk about the subject matter about efficiencies, effectiveness, and statistical success with time and the importance of non-negotiable time. And you can shit on me all you want because I think it's funny, but I also want to, I saw in the comments with the millions of people that watched that video, there's a lot of people that say, why didn't you let him finish? I'd like to have a further conversation. So my thing with you is please let James finish because he has really important things to say that can really help us all stand united. So
I appreciate that. And I feel the same way about you. And I think maybe to add any last thought to that is I know where your heart is. I know you as a human being, and I'm lucky to know you. And not everybody has a personal relationship. But to that point, even if you say something that I disagree with, or you say something, or I see something that might be out of context, might not, that's okay because you're imperfect. So am I. We're human. Let's all remember that. We're all humans. We're all trying to figure it out here together. So have a little bit of grace and a little bit of empathy before you go on the attack, and maybe we can all learn something and be a little better for it.
Well, it leads to my two favorite statements as we sign off with James Maslow with the Celebrity Entrepreneur Show with James Maslow. Be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and continue to do good deeds. That's what James Maslow does. That's my intention as well. James Maslow, thanks for joining me on this.
Love you, buddy. Good to see you as always.
Good to be home, brother. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Incredible James Maslow, everyone, here on Celebrity Entrepreneur with James Maslow. It's Office Hours with David Meltzer series. We will be growing. Let me just tell you that. This show, we're also on the road. If you want to join me, we have a SoFi mastermind at the game opener at SoFi. I'll be doing meetups, holding courts, interviews in Italy, then Phoenix, South Dakota, San Diego, Indianapolis, Minneapolis, Minnesota. We'll be filming #1 show on Cheddar at Los Alamitos at the Titan Studios there. Go fund yourself and then finish up in Boise, Idaho, all in a few weeks. That's how you get to 200 cities. Text me if you want to be invited. Don't text me if you don't want to be invited. 949-298-2905. 949-298-2905. Email me for everything else. You see the pre-order of the pre-launch of my favorite book, Don't Do Business with Dicks. Go to don'tdobusinesswithdicks.com. Thank you, everyone. And not to be repetitive,